A massive AFC North showdown looms between the Bengals and the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. If you want the Bengals to take down Baltimore, then like the video right now. If we get more likes than our Ravens channel on our preview, the odds of the Bengals going up increases. We have the data that proves that across all the different Chat Sports channels. So like the video if you want the Bengals to beat the Ravens. Cincinnati on the road on Thursday Night Football, a primetime matchup, trying to do what they haven't done in like 13 games or something like that. Trying to win a road primetime matchup. Very tough to do, especially in the dogfight games that exist in the AFC North. The Bengals, 3.5-point favorites. When I first saw them, I'm like, that line makes sense. Bengals aren't that much further behind. The more I've thought about it, the way this Bengals team has played, the line actually seems small. I thought it could be bigger at home, which makes me think Vegas knows this is going to be a very close and hard-fought game. The Ravens have the NFL's number 1 scoring defense. They are number 5 in scoring offense, by the way. That is some elite production. The Bengals, meanwhile, in part because of a terrible start to their season, are near the bottom in scoring offense and average in scoring defense, which has not been very good for them. The last 5 games to make note of here for Cincinnati. The Bengals had the big win over Arizona, narrow win over Seattle. Then they got hot. Nice win over San Francisco. A good win over the Bills, which home primetime game doesn't feel quite as good as it did a week ago, with the Bills now losing to the Broncos as well. And then a painful loss against Houston. The Ravens, meanwhile, had also won 4 in a row before a painful loss in Week 10. Took care of business against the Titans, a bit closer than they would have liked. Blew out the Lions, good win over the Cardinals, blew out over the Seahawks, a painful loss against Cleveland. So both teams in a kind of angry status following Week 10's losses. The AFC North standings are critical here. This is the best division in football right now. I would say by a pretty comfortable margin. The Ravens are 7-3. The Steelers are 6-3, along with the Cleveland Browns. And the Bengals are 5-4. Now, in terms of winning the division, this is basically a must-win game. If the Bengals do not take down the Ravens, at that point they would fall, 4 games back. They'd be 5-5, or 3 games back. Ravens would be 8-3. It would be very challenging for the Bengals to win the division outside of winning out and getting help along the way. They win this game, playoff hopes are in better shape. They'd be, 6-4, sitting in a decent spot, having some confidence there. They lose, playoff hopes are not over, but then you're 5-5, and you really have to go on a run. So is this a must-win game? I like Paul Denner's theory of you get to use one must-win game a year. If you win, you get it back. Otherwise, you're kind of cooked. So I am not going to cash it this week. I have my eye on next week's game against Pittsburgh, especially if you do lose. But do you consider this the one must-win game so far this year? Bengals already played that card, and they did win, by the way. Y for yes, N for no. It's the pinned comment on today's video. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. The injury report now, and this is where things get a little bit dicey. Knowing we should have an update in the not-too-distant future here, probably maybe even by the time you're watching this video, if you're watching it later on Tuesday night. Trey Hendrickson seems unlikely. Hyperextended knee. I'd be surprised if he was able to go for Cincinnati on such a short timeline. Tee Higgins, Zach Thero's already said it's a stretch to have him play. Doubt he'll be able to go. Maybe you can get Sam Hubbard back, who you missed, especially in the ground game up front as a defensive end. He missed last week. If you can get something in today that bodes some positivity on a very, very tight and short week. And Andrei Iosivas, also with a knee, so we'll see on that front there. We should know more tomorrow, but Bengals missing at least probably 2 key players, maybe 3, and maybe even your top backup, one of your top backups behind Higgins. The Ravens, however, also injured. Marlon Humphrey has a calf issue. We'll see if he'll be able to go. That one's up in the air. Trenton Simpson, number 3 linebacker, I doubt will be able to go. And I don't think you're going to see Ronnie Stanley out there either, which does help kind of negate the loss of Trey Hendrickson, but Both teams missing key pieces potentially in this football game. Who you got? Keys to victory coming up next here. B for the Bengals, R for the Ravens. Get those answers in for me in the comment section right now. Let's talk those keys to victory. Number 1, stop the run. How you let Devin Singletary run all over you is still an embarrassment for Lou Anarumo and that entire Bengals defense. And I am very concerned about this particular matchup this week. The rush EPA per play on defense, the worst run defenses in football. Carolina, Kansas City have actually done a great job in pass defense, and it balances out. Denver, you saw against the Bills, they got gashed, right? Miami and Cincinnati has been a very, very poor run defense this season. They are bottom 5 in rush EPA, expected points added. How much, health of the ground game offense, or in this case, ground game defense. How good is it? It's not been very good. Meanwhile, you get the NFL's best rushing offense in EPA play. Now, there's a trend here. Ravens, Bills, Eagles have mobile quarterbacks, and running quarterback plays often lead to good EPA because they come in high leverage situations more often than not. The Dolphins ran it so well earlier this year against that Denver game alone is kind of swinging both of those teams. And the Lions run the ball as well as anybody on the normal ground stuff. I am worried about that side of the ball for the Bengals. This is not a matchup I like at all. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of players, the pros, the sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and then you watch the winnings roll in. You can also mix and match NFL and NBA, or NBA and college football. I love that they also offer their reboot policy. If a player goes down in the first half, he's injured, does not return, good news, that player is rebooted, and your picks stay in play despite the injury. Prize Picks is the only DFS platform that offers injury insurance. My picks this week, these are for the Sunday games. We'll do a special one for Thursday night for our watch party. More than six-yard passing yards, 254.5. Seems really low, right? He's been dealing, as we all saw last week. Sam Howell against the terrible Giants defense, more than passing yards, 259.5. And the Cowboys are going to feed CeeDee Lamb, give me more than 86.5 passing yards, or receiving yards, I should say. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comments and the description of today's show. But again, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. This Bengals team in general on defense has always been a bend but don't break unit. They have great red zone defenses for the most part. Did not show up well enough against Houston, and that's led to some big plays. What they need to be this week is a second half defense in particular. And the reason why I say that is Lamar Jackson has some very weird splits. Same EPA per play, health of the offense with Lamar out there, he's still Lamar Jackson. He's done some good passing stuff this year. He's 13th in EPA per play. The fumbles have really hurt him. When the ball gets loose, go pick it up there. But still 13th. In the first half of games, he's a top 10 quarterback. He's 9th. In the second half of games, he's actually got negative EPA per play. He's costing his team points when he's involved in plays. Again, the turnovers have plagued the Ravens in the second half. Their special teams has had issues as well. If you can hang around for the first half, this is a Ravens team that so far this year, and even dating back to last year too, has not put teams away. You can pull off a comeback if it comes down to it. So give me your score predictions of this week's Bengals-Ravens matchup. We'll get to mine at the end of today's video, but I want to hear from you first. Score predictions in the comment section right now. Key to victory number 3. The Bengals are calling this a playoff game in November. Well, your franchise quarterback better show up. Not that he hasn't normally showed up, but big players make big plays in the biggest of games. Joe Burrow this year, not great to start the season. The calf was very clearly a troubling and concerning issue. Meanwhile, he's since gotten much, much better since then. And the hope and goal here would be that the Bengals continue to get really good play out of Joe Burrow down the stretch this season. If that happens, awesome. And if he plays well, you can beat Baltimore. If Joe Burrow balls out, plays like the top 3 quarterback, not 3 that I think he is, sky's the limit for this team. But he has to play super well, especially with some injuries in his receiving core and the O-line struggling, and that's not easy on anyone. But that is the expectation, fair or not. Confidence level in beating the Ravens. Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Sound off in the comments section. Number 4, in particular on offense, someone else got to step up. That should have been Tyler Boyd last week. He dropped a touchdown pass. We've made note of it. We'll move on. But you need other guys to make plays if Tee Higgins is going to be out. And I think this is a key to the victory from Jamar Chase himself. Quote, it's just winning, losing right now. And like I keep saying, got to get more consistent. Offense making plays like we did in the last 3 games. Even though T was down, I was a little limited. And, offense got to step up sometimes. And other people got to make plays too. Look, he's not wrong. Your ground game has not been good enough. Trenton Irwin made a nice play for you, but wasn't consistent enough. You need more from Boyd. You need more from Chase. You scored 27. You think that's enough to win? It wasn't against Houston. You need more plays. You play it against Houston, against the Ravens, in the words of Mike Hilton, you're going to get your ass kicked. It's not going to go well. You have to up your level of play. By the way, please stop feeding Tanner Hudson. He's fine, but I think this whole, we're going to scheme touches for our tight end. Stop it. No. It's not, you are not maximizing your playmakers. It's fine when he makes a play. I'm not saying don't ever throw it to him, but please stop force-feeding Hudson to prove we have a tight end. Just get it to your playmakers, guys. Come on. Now, we'll be live for the Bengals-Ravens game on Thursday Night Football Prime video. Maybe you don't have it because you don't want to pay for Prime. We got you covered over the blast here. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Key to victory number 5, one of your pass rushers must emerge. Assuming you're not going to have Trey Hendrickson, and maybe not. Sam Hubbard will know more in the coming hours here, really, from that perspective. The Bengals pass rush has simply not been very good. Sam Hubbard's got 4 sacks in 8 games. That's fine. It's not bad. Cameron Sample's got a sack, but he's got some pressures. Miles Murphy has a sack. Where has Joseph Osai been all year? Is this the breakout game for Osai? Sure would be nice. If you don't have Hendrickson, or if he's, in best case scenario, banged up and limited, somebody else got to emerge. Maybe it's Murphy. Maybe it's Sample. Maybe it's a blitzing Mike Hilton. You got to generate some pressure, and you got to be able to get after Lamar Jackson, not let him do crazy Lamar stuff in the pocket and outside of it like he has a tendency to do. The more I think about it, the more I think that line is weird. 3.5, it should be more. And when the line should be more, I love taking the other side of it. So give me the Bengals in a thrilling stunner. Evan McPherson walk-off field goal as time expires. Bengals win 23-22.